Good morning, everyone. This is a continuation of the transfer station application citing public hearing. We left off yesterday with Mr. Moose testifying, and start today with Coupo's cross-examination of Mr. Moose. I expect this morning we will get to criterion 2 and criterion 6. If we don't conclude that this morning, it'll be early afternoon. As I mentioned yesterday, we will have public comment this afternoon. So if you are listening to this or in attendance and interested in providing oral public comment, please schedule your speaker this afternoon. What time that is, I'm not quite sure. It depends on how the testimony goes. It will likely be today for sure. Ready, Mr. Marshall?
Yes, Mr. Wolf.
Okay.
Morning, Mr. President.
Good morning.
I'll try to keep my questions pretty direct this morning. In criteria 2, the facility is so designed, located, and proposed to be operated that the public health, safety, and welfare will be protected. We talked a little bit about yesterday about a 1,000-foot requirement. Could you again explain what that 1,000-foot requirement is?
State law prohibits a transfer station being within 1,000 feet of areas zoned primarily for residential use or dwelling.
Why is that?
I think that's more of a land use question.
Okay.
It's state law. It's not required to protect on public health. Safety.
In your analysis of whether or not the facility is designed to protect public health, safety, and welfare, you're not limited to any particular like that 1,000-yard buffer area. You're not limited to consideration of that area, right? I mean, you're looking at all the properties that surround that, whether it's within 1,000 yards or a mile.
Yeah, we have to consider that because that's a law. But as a professional engineer, my responsibility is to protect the public health, safety, and welfare, regardless of what the regulations are.
Okay. So, are you aware that you talked a lot about the facility and the steps that have been taken in the design of the facility to counteract things like the odor and the noise and things. We heard testimony yesterday that this lot was also going to be used as a storage yard and a loading facility for the garbage trucks. Is that right?
It's not a loading facility for the garbage trucks. It's a parking.
So the garbage trucks will be parked there
Overnight. Yes.
overnight. And approximately how many garbage trucks are going to be
About
parked?
30. 15 outside.
Also pretty stinky, smelly, and dirty. What steps short taken to ensure that there's no odor or anything emanating from the garbage trucks that are stored on site?
Well, it is disputed. I agree that they are stinky. Trucks are maintained like any other fleet. If they become odorous, they're washed and cleaned. They're maintained. They're emptied every day, sometimes twice a day.
Okay, fair enough. Talking about the trucks, so there'll be the garbage trucks and the transfer trucks that are going back and forth. And I know traffic is going to be addressed in a different section, so I'm not really concerned about that. What I am concerned about is the effects of all of that increased truck traffic and the emissions resulting from those increased trucks in that area. Has Lakeshore, have you conducted any kind of emissions study to determine what the effects of that increased emissions would be on the surrounding properties?
These are gonna be less after the transfer stations constructed.
And what's the basis for that?
There's gonna be less road miles traveled.
So I'm talking about the immediate area. So for example, what about for the properties across the street or the trailer park, the residences that are just over 1,000 yards to the east or the residents to the south? Are you claiming that the emissions around that area will be less
Will be,
as a result of the transfer station?
there'll be no change.
Well, can you
The amount of contribution that this facility makes based on the overall traffic in the area is immeasurable. It's nothing.
Well, in the area, what do you mean? What are you
There's
looking
probably
at?
less emissions, for example, from this transfer station than from the Oak Groves facility. The number of vehicles coming in and out of the Oak Groves facility far exceeds this.
So right now, you're proposing that there's going to be at least 15 trucks that are parked there daily. I don't know how many loads are going to be brought back and forth by those trucks. Twice daily.
30 trips. I think you said you had 1,200 employees. I mean, it doesn't even compare to the amount of background emissions.
Well, I still don't think you're answering my question. Have you done an analysis? Have you done an analysis on what the air quality would be, the impacts would be to say the property across the street or the trailer park or the residences to the south?
If this traffic constitutes a small percentage of the overall traffic, and it's replacement, not an addition to, you don't need to do the analysis. It's fairly straightforward, and obvious that there is no impact.
Okay, so you haven't done an analysis.
I just told you how I came to that conclusion. I came to the conclusion because the increased traffic is going to be almost immeasurable. It's going to be less than 0.5%. That traffic increase or change isn't going to change the emissions at all in the area.
So you talked a little bit about employees, and there are a lot of employees that, the group of employees across the street at that site, and very often, they are outside using those streets during their lunch breaks for exercise and things. There are no sidewalks on any of those streets. What measures has Lake Shore taken to ensure pedestrian safety in those areas from the increased truck traffic?
Steve, truck drivers are professional drivers. They're better drivers than most of the employees using your facility. If you're mixing people, if you're taking your employees and putting them on the street for exercise, I'd say the safety measures should be with both, not with the truck driver.
Okay, so Lake Shore has no obligation or responsibility in that event.
Of course we have. We have the same as any other motorist on the street.
I think those roads have probably been around since the platting of the initial plat in 1974. Have you done any kind of study or analysis to determine whether or not those roads, particularly like 47th Street, can handle the increased truck traffic? Those roads,
I think that's best for the traffic.
getting it. Okay. But that has to do with safety, wouldn't you agree? If roads are in poor condition, that could be.
We have a whole criteria on traffic. We have an expert on traffic.
Would you agree that road condition is important for safety?
I'm on site. I've designed the traffic on site. Mr. Workman will talk about traffic off site.
Well,
Yes, and of course it's safety.
Okay. Thank
If you
you.
read his report, that's addressed.
You also talked about the filtration devices that are going to be put on the facility. I think you mentioned ozone would be used. Is there typical any kind of like a fluid dynamics analysis or something that would demonstrate that your proposed filtration system will do what it's supposed to do? Is any kind of that analysis been performed?
It'll be performed by the equipment manufacturer. It's the same equipment we've used on facilities that are 5 times the size. Empirical evidence is they would find. Those will be fit during the final design.
Okay, so as of yet, there hasn't been any analysis as to whether that worked yet.
Yes, I'm sorry.
So as of today, as we speak, there hasn't been any kind of analysis as to whether the proposed filtration system will do what it's designed to do.
I disagree with that.
Okay, can you point it to me in your report?
On 2.3-3, we discussed the ozone system and ventilation system.
222-3, where's that located?
2.3
Oh, 2.3-3.
and 2.4-16. And I also discussed it in my testimony yesterday.
Mr. Moose, I'm familiar with this, and basically it recites what you said in your testimony, that you would be utilizing ozone and a filtration system. But my question is whether or not you've conducted a computational fluid dynamics analysis as to whether what you propose will actually do what you say it's going to do.
So I had testified yesterday that we'll do 7 to 8 air changes per hour in the building. In my experience, that's the fluid dynamics that works. That works for a 3,000 ton per day facility. It'll be more than sufficient for a 500 ton per day facility.
And then lastly, are you familiar with what, the zoning requires in terms of noise and permissible decibel levels beyond the property lines?
I don't think so. It's applicable.
Okay, do you think noise plays a factor in whether or not this is beneficial for the health, safety and welfare of the surrounding properties?
Yes, and I've addressed noise control in the application, and I testified to the issues that pertain to noise control. Based on my experience also on building like this, noise is not an issue at all, which is measured at the property line.
That's all I have for this.
Mr. Silverman, you had a number of questions of this witness yesterday. Does the city council have any additional ones?
Yeah, I do. Just for clarification, that's something you just testified to. I want to make sure you understand that LRS understands the facility will be operated in accordance with the applicable district regulations.
Yes,
Mr. Mueller, any redirects?
Just one. Might be two. Mr. Moose, the area where the site is proposed is designed and intended to be an industrial park, correct?
correct.
In your experience, do industrial parks have commercial vehicles and trucks?
Yes,
So that's kind of baked into the design.
I think one would expect that in an industrial park.
Thank you, that's all I have.
This one. Sure.
What are the maximum number of trucks that can use the facility per day?
I think it's a traffic related question.
Okay, we can save the question for the traffic engineer. Okay, very good, thank you.
City staff have any redirect coming across?
Yeah, just one. I think you just testified that zoning isn't applicable, right? So the fact that the surrounding properties are zoned industrial is kind of irrelevant, isn't it?
I think that's a land use related question. I think that's our next expert.
So in a follow-up, while a property may be zoned industrial, the uses that the use that the property is actually being put to may not be strictly industrial. You agree with that? Industrial contemplates a wide range, heavy industrial, light industrial. You could actually even have commercial in some industrial zoning regulations. So just because a property is zoned industrial doesn't mean it's being used for that.
I would say anybody that puts a commercial use in an industrial park is making a big mistake. They're mixing two different uses.
What industrial use currently exists within that business park that attracts all of the trucks or as many or amount of the trucks that you currently say will replace?
I think Oak Group is the only tenant in the park, to my knowledge. They have truck docks. I've witnessed them. Their truck docks actually face the street, which is a bad design. They took no effort to try and hide those truck docks. I have not done a truck count for that deal.
Thanks, that's all I have.
Mr. Silverman, you.
Yeah, I need a clarification on my last question. I apologize. The question is actually an operations question. How many trucks can be processed through the facility in a given day? In other words, you have those 3 days, they unload, they leave, whatever happens then. How many trucks can be processed through the facility?
So we're a broad answer to that is we're able to process over twice the amount of trucks that we expect.
But do you have a number? Okay,
We'll take it in and
okay, thank you.
124 trucks for all processing in and out throughout the course of the day.
Thank you.
Mr. Miller, anything else?
No, thank you.
And that concludes the testimony on criterion 2, 4, 5, 7, and 9. Thank you, Mr. Lewis. What's next from you?
We'll call Gary Hanson. Yeah.
Do solemnly swear or affirm testimony about given this case to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. Thank you.
Please keep your voice up. It's difficult for the court.
State the name, please, and spell your last name for the record.
Carrie Hansen, Hansen.
And Carrie, what do you do for a living?
I am a planner and government services consultant.
And have you been commissioned by Lakeshore Recycling to perform a study and prepare a report in connection with this application?
Yes,
And your study contained in the application itself.
yes, it
Have
is.
you also prepared a PowerPoint presentation which summarizes your study and its real facts?
Yes,
Would you like to proceed with that presentation?
I sure will.
Thank you.
Morning, everyone. My name is Carrie Hansen, and I am the Director of Planning and Government Services for Shop Design Associates out of Oswego, Illinois. Little about me, I have degrees in urban studies and geography from Elmhurst College. I have nearly over 35 years of experience in land use and transportation planning, both public and private sectors. I've served in various planning, administration, and consulting capacities for the municipalities of Elburn, Sugar Grove, Lenox, Oswego, Aurora, and Naperville, Illinois, where I also served on the planning commission for just about 5 years. I've prepared and overseen the preparation of numerous award-winning comprehensive plans and zoning ordinance updates. I've served on a number of intergovernmental boards and councils in King and Kendall counties in Illinois. And as a consultant, I have also served in a government liaison and outreach management capacity for major engineering transportation projects for IDOT districts 1, 2, and 3 in Northern Illinois. Shopee was retained by Lakeshore Recycling Systems to perform an independent analysis as to whether the proposed transfer station is located to minimize incompatibility with the character of the surrounding area. We were also commissioned to prepare a landscape plan for the project. Some of this you have heard last night, but for purposes of my presentation, I'd like to reiterate that. It factors into my opinion. The proposed 10-acre site is located within the city of Moline, located on the west side of 47th Street, just north of the 78th Avenue intersection. It's just south of the Quad Cities International Airport, and it's in the I-2 General Industrial Zoning District. It's also within the Moline Business Park Redevelopment Project Tax Increment Financing District. As previously noted in a couple of the presentations, the facility is comprised of a 15,000 square foot transfer station, a 7,580 square foot maintenance facility, 505 square foot office, 2,894 square foot parts and storage room, and a 2,900 square foot hydro excavation waste solidification building. Operations again are Monday through Friday from 5 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on Saturday from 5 a.m. to 1 p.m. The facility's comprehensive operating plan was also reviewed by SDA. The facility will be built with modern state-of-the-art building construction. The main building will be constructed in precast concrete. The hydro excavation building is pre-engineered steel and concrete. The overhead doors and associated truck activity are on the west side of the building, not visible from the street. Most buildings in the vicinity are metal construction with little to no landscaping. It's very different from our site. And as proposed, this is a high-quality facility that will set the tone for future building expectations in the business park. Section 39.2A, criteria 3A, about land use compatibility states that the facility is located so as to minimize incompatibility with the character of the surrounding area. That's what SDA was charged with evaluating. The methodology that we used included the evaluation of various planning issues commonly utilized of the land use compatibility. We prepared two study areas, one a more general 1.5 mile radius from the site, and then a more targeted 0.5 mile radius of the site. The information sources that we used to conduct our evaluation included aerial photography, zoning ordinances and maps, comprehensive land use plans for the city of Moline, the village of Moline, and Rock Island County, the City of Moline Airport South District Development Plan, current Rock Island County GIS information, field investigations, field photography, and a review of the proposed facility, design, and operations. What we found is that the character of both the general and the targeted study areas is mixed and primarily consists of industrial and open space land uses. The historical industrial character is influenced by the Quad City International Airport and the 2.8 million square foot John Deere Parts Distribution Center to the west of this site. As a further analysis of the existing character, land use ratios are calculated to quantify uses within the study area for the following categories. Open space, which included parks and recreation, agriculture, and vacant or undeveloped land. Residential uses, which included single-family detached and attached, multifamily and mobile home units in the study area. Commercial and office, which is general commercial, retail uses, and office. And industrial uses, which include assembly, fabrication, processing, storage, and manufacturing uses. The result is the graphic that you see before you, which indicates that 52% of the 1.5 mile study area is comprised of open space. You'll see that in the green color. 33% of the study area is in industrial, the purple color. 15% of the study area is in residential, and 2% in the commercial or office land use category. In the more targeted 0.5 mile study area, 46% of that space is in open space, 36% is industrial, 13% again, same amount, is in residential, and 5% is in the commercial and office use category. The site is also located within a tax increment financing district. The Moline Business Park redevelopment project area was approved in 2011 with the intent to facilitate and encourage the construction of new commercial and industrial development within the Moline Business Park, to stimulate the redevelopment of vacant and underutilized parcels, and provide new public facilities. The subject site is one of 18 identified vacant tax parcels of the Moline Business Park, which is targeted for commercial and industrial development. While eligible, LRS is not seeking any TIP funds. The increment that will be generated by LRS will be available for other improvements in the business park that are eligible for those funds. The next few slides deal with some photographs that we took when we were out there, and these were taken to illustrate the character of the area. The pictures represent the character of the adjacent area, the on-site conditions, and depict the context of the existing character established. This first series is of the site itself. There's a series of photos looking from the street onto the property and from various adjacent parcels back onto the site. It's presently armed in the industrial park. This next series of photographs is views to the airport property. The first photo is to the northwest, looking to the northwest from our property. Again, the series of photos you can see as you get closer, some of the airport facilities and buildings adjacent to the site. These photos are intended to give you a feel for the 47th Street character. You'll see across the street from us is another vacant parcel. All of the parcels adjacent to us are vacant. There is an industrial building behind the vacant piece across the east to us, that is a facility. But generally, you'll note that the parcels adjacent are vacant and farmed in the 47th Street corridor. Again, the next slide is adjacent vacant land and farmland. The last two photos are actually taken from Rock Island Milan Parkway and look back to our site. You'll see the tree line in the distance. That is the tree line on the west edge of our property. And I believe the last photograph is of a new, it might be constructed now, coffee shop that's going in on the corner west of us. That's the closest to the west of us, right at distance. The next series of photos are buildings in the existing industrial park to the east of us, the Quad City Industrial Park. You'll see a series of photos, if you will, for the types of industries and buildings that are located in the park presently. That last photo is actually some mini storage buildings that are located south of our site, closer to 78th Street. And speaking of 78th Street, we did want to give a general context of what it feels like approaching the industrial park and what the nature of the uses in the area are. There's a United States Postal Service distribution center about a mile to the east of us. There's the Wine Country Club airplane hangars about 3/4 of a mile. Army National Guard headquarters on the south side, slightly over a 1/4 mile east of the site. And then Bowl Machine and Tool in the northwest corner of 78th and 47th. And then slightly west of us on the north side of 78th Street is the Greater Quad City Auto Auction facility. So the culmination of our analysis resulted in our land use findings, which are that the immediate area is defined by industrial and open space uses, consisting of approximately 85% of the 1.5 mile study area and 82% of the 1/2 mile study area. Residential uses account for approximately 13% of both study areas and are removed from any major impact of the proposed transfer station site. The proposed facility is located within Moline's Business Park Redevelopment Project Tax Increment Financing District. The Quad City International Airport establishes the predominant land use to the north. And existing light industrial uses in the industrial park to the east and south are appropriate land use buffers that transition to the surrounding undeveloped areas. Section 39.2G of the Illinois Environmental Protection Act provides that local zoning or other land use requirements are not applicable to the local siting process. However, local zoning classifications are helpful when reviewing existing land uses of surrounding properties and determining how such properties may be developed in the future. Accordingly, additional analysis of local zoning was conducted to supplement the land use analysis. The graphic that you see there was a culmination of 3 individual jurisdictions, Rock Island County, the Village of Moline, and the City of Moline, which together constituted 55 zoning districts. So what we did for ease of graphics and understanding was consolidated those into like zoning categories and created this overall master list of approximately 24 zoning categories. And those are the colors that you see depicted there. The conversion table that we use to develop land use or zoning key is included in our report. Our analysis of the zoning within the study area concludes that the zoning of the proposed transportation facility and the surrounding area is classified as I2 General Industrial District. The zoning has been established historically and is appropriate. The city intends to develop the Moline Business Park as evidenced by the establishment of a TIF district for this specific purpose. There are no residentially zoned areas or dwellings within a 1,000-foot setback, meeting the requirement of the Illinois Environmental Protection Act, Section 22.14. The existing uses are historically established and zoned with industrial growth anticipated and planned. The proposed use, lying within an I2 General Industrial District, minimizes compatibility with the zoning uses adjacent to the site that are similarly zoned. Future uses that may be contemplated in the surrounding area are buffered by mature vegetation and natural environmental features that further act. A robust landscape plan was developed for the site. The plan provides aesthetically pleasing and functional year-round screening along the street frontage and adjoining properties. The vegetation substantially buffers the facility during the vegetative season and provides filtered restricted views during the non-vegetative periods. Maintenance and replacement of landscape material will be routinely performed to sustain the intent of the design. We have an enhanced streetscape along 47th Street. A monument sign will be located near the north entrance outside of the visual sight triangles to ensure safe ingress and egress of vehicles. A 6-foot decorative fence has been set back 35 feet from the front property line, such that all of the plant material that you see is located on the street side of the fence for visual enhancement along the frontage. Along the north and south property lines, predominantly evergreens are used with a smaller number of deciduous trees to provide year tree lines serve as buffering of the facility to the undeveloped and farmed properties to the west. The 6-foot-high black vinyl chain link fence will be located on the north, west, and south property lines, except it will be routed along the existing tree line in the southwest portion of the site. Based on the foregoing findings, it is my opinion that the proposed transfer station minimizes the impact on the character of the surrounding area and therefore satisfies the first part of criterion 3 of section 39.2A of the Illinois Environmental Protection Act. Summarizing the basis of my opinion, the subject site is located in the I2 General Industrial District within the city of Moline. Character of the immediate surrounding area has been defined by industrial uses that have been established over past years and vacant farmland zoned for industrial use. The proposed transfer station development will not alter this existing land use pattern. The major land uses in the area continue to be the Quad City International Airport, open space, and industrial. Case Creek and its associated wooded tree line is an appropriate land use buffer along the west property line. Open space and industrial land uses account for 85% of the area within a 1.5 mile radius of the proposed site and 82% of the area within a half-mile radius. No residential zone property or dwellings are located within the 1,000-foot setback requirement of the Illinois Environmental Protection Act, Section 22.14. Residential uses account for approximately 13% of both 1.5 mile and half-mile study areas. The residential uses are predominantly single-family detached units and are removed from any major impact of the proposed transfer station site. The proposed facility will be undeveloped industrially zoned properties to the north, east, and south, and undeveloped office, research, and technology zone property to the west. The proposed transfer station development will be blocked by an existing tree line and greenway corridor to the west, and by fencing and landscape screening comprised of predominantly evergreen tree plantings, with year-round. Importantly, the design, engineering, and operational features of the proposed facility contribute to minimizing incompatibility of the use with the character of the surrounding area.
Thank you, Carrie. We would tender the witness.
Thank you, Ms. Hanson. For the record, the PowerPoint that was referred to by Ms. Hanson throughout her presentation is a part of applicant's exhibit number 3, and will be added to the screen. Does the city staff have any questions?
No questions.
Does Grupo have any questions in this one?
Yeah, just a few. Similar question that I asked to Mr. Musti. Your analysis on the land use and the zoning isn't limited to a specific area, right? I think you put it up 1.5 mile area, maybe a half-mile area. And it's not limited either or restricted by what the actual zoning classifications are within those areas, right? This criteria is focused on what the use is and the character currently.
Yes, it's both, but it's informed by the zoning as well.
Okay. So I think your conclusion ultimately is that it is consistent with the character of the area. I think we maybe group the numbers a little bit differently. I think you group open space and industrial together and say that, hey, those are the predominant uses. I look at this and I see that over 2/3 of the property in the area is other than industrial. You agree with that? Whether you look at your 1.5 miles or your half a mile radius, 2/3 of the character of the property there is other than industrial.
Percentage wise, let me go back and look at the percentages. Slide 9. Oh, so you're adding 52 to 13 in the 2.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. Yes, I would say that's an accurate statement. However, I would say that the reason that industrial and open space are categorized together in my analysis is that the open space is a very commonly used mitigation land use category for industrial uses or more intense uses. Open space, whether it's agricultural, vacant, that serves as buffers. And so when I'm looking at that area in total, to me, it's the industrial use plus the other types of uses that enable that buffering and mitigation. So that's why I combine those two.
So just again to focus on not necessarily the zoning aspect of it, but the actual character and use. So do you think that a garbage facility of this type is consistent with the character of the mobile home park that's just to the east of the facility?
I think that it can be, yes. I think that with the measures that have been taken on the site with the design, the landscaping, the amount of space that's in between and the types of uses that are intervening, yes, I do think that it can be compatible. Industrial uses and lighter industrial uses as you move towards the east serve as appropriate buffering from more intensive uses to residential uses, and that is common practice.
How about the golf course down the street just to the south and east is a garbage facility consistent with the character of golf course?
Indian Bluff Golf Course is significantly set away. So again, with the measures such as buffering and design, I do not think that they are incompatible.
How about the office space? I think on one of your other slides, there was some office space just to the west. Is the garbage facility consistent with office space?
Again, with appropriate buffering and operations, yes.
And then directly across the street from the site, Grupo has its corporate headquarters. Your opinion that the garbage facility is consistent with the character of corporate headquarters?
Yeah, with the buffering and site design that is being incorporated into this facility, yes, it's an industrial park with industrial uses.
On the zoning side of things, in your, I don't know that this was in your PowerPoint, but it is in your report that was produced last week. I'm on page 3.1-10. And at the bottom on the subject site zoning, you note that, and I think we can agree that the statute says that the zoning, local zoning is applicable here, but putting that aside, would you agree that this use would likely be require a special use permit under the local zoning ordinances?
The way the ordinance is currently written, it is a waste disposal facility is identified as a potential special use. That is not exactly what this use is. I'm not sure that the specific use is addressed in the city's zoning ordinance. However, common practice would be to interpret similar and compatible uses to those that are listed with those that seem of like makeup. So in this instance, I would say that it is deemed compatible with that special use. And that the city would likely interpret that as a special use in the I2 district.
Are you aware? So I would agree with you that the zoning ordinance refers to the waste disposal sites, but also it refers to the Quad City combined zoning ordinance, and it specifically references as a similar use of transfer station. Given that, would you agree that but for the state statute, which makes the local zoning not applicable, if this were any other reason, that this would be subject to a special use permit?
I would agree.
And why is that? What is a special use permit for?
A special use typically is just a further step of review for uses that are deemed compatible to the permitted uses in the zoning district. But for whatever reason that the community, the municipality, the county deems appropriate, they want another layer of review. I would offer that this layer of review is significantly greater than what a special use review process in a municipality or a county government would be. But they would go through a very similar approval process and look at things like traffic, architecture, landscaping. It puts an additional layer of review than just a by right because of perceived nature of the business. But by virtue of the fact that it is listed as a special use in the zoning district, the community that identifies it as such is confirming that the use is compatible, or it would not be listed as a special use without that further layer of review.
Fair enough. Let me just read to you the definition from the city. Is to provide an opportunity to utilize the property for an activity which under unusual circumstances could be detrimental to other permitted uses and which normally is not permitted within the same district. You agree with that?
It's a different way of saying, I think, what I said.
So this is a use that wouldn't normally be permitted in that district because it's given its unique nature is probably not consistent with the uses that currently exist there, and thus the need for a special use permit.
I would object. This is all hypothetical in light of the fact that the witnesses testified. Zoning specifically is not applicable to this process.
Mr. Walton, I think it's completely relevant, given the fact that we're evaluating. So here's the problem I have. They want to use the zoning to their benefit when they say, well, hey, this is all zoned as industrial. But then when we reference zoning that might be detrimental, they say, well, zoning doesn't apply. Well, they can't use it in their favor. And then when we talk about character and what this would normally be, they can't say, well, that doesn't apply. They can't have it both.
Give you a little leeway at it.
So again, according to the city of Moline's definition, this would be a use that could be detrimental to the other permitted uses within the area. Is that right?
If that's what it says. That's what it says.
Okay, that's all I got. I don't.
Thank you. Mr. Sullivan?
Yeah, understanding that zoning does not have a role in this very intensive review process. In your professional experience, is this use typically found in industrial zone areas?
Yes, it is.
That's
Maybe you're right.
Yeah, I do have just a couple. Carrie, the criterion that you studied does not require a finding that there is zero adverse impact, does it?
Correct.
What it requires is a finding that the facility is so designed and located as to minimize potential negative impacts.
That's correct.
You believe this facility is in fact so designed and located.
I do.
That's all I have.
So you have anything? Just Sullivan, anything? Hey, Ms. Hanson. Mr. Wheeler?
Our next witness is 5 minutes away.
Take a 5 minute break.
I got the UV. So I mean, that's,
I did do it. You can grab it.
you can grab Mr. Walsh's as well.
Do you want to ask your question?
For everybody.
Okay, you can, I got it. Okay, there you go.
Just want to get out.
All right, so.
I'm not.
Oh, you're right. Oh, God.
I'm hearing days.
You don't need to go out of what here, not down.
Trust me. I'm better off not eating.
Look.
None of us are going to get it out.
Yeah. I mean, I keep that.
Yeah, you gotta get it right. You know, yeah, the city guys are like, yeah, he's like. Yeah. So. Yeah.
It's as they lost last year. You didn't. It's like a really nice landing up. It's the yeah, you get to use my spot. That's reaction. All the way out here. It's just you just they don't want to walk alone. Oh, but. We just keep talking about it. I don't know. I like it. Yeah. I think she was like, oh, it's only $125 a person. And my book was smaller. Well, it's pretty because of the I'm like, yeah, I got 5 people, 4 of them that don't like. Yeah. And then it's like, my parents like, well, you only like to see the kids. I'm like, oh, yeah. I'd like to you to see the kids, but I don't want to pay to have you know, essentially. That is my house. Yeah. I don't think my parents really like me. Like these kids are old and all the it's not that easy. I think it'd be different if I was like over time around like I'm like, nice thought. Still sober. I'm just gonna order that.
I think they're gonna have you. I don't know. Oh, yeah.
Take it outside. The regular ticket for $20 or whatever it is. Yeah. I know. I'm like, that's you know, the age where I'm like, I just no, there you go. What are you going on? I guess. What do you think? He doesn't know. That's what he does. Because I've been. I think what this.
Commercial shows. Yeah, so we. Well, they had a company, so they were telling people, set up already. There's. So you set up like. Yeah. Set up all the metal, the wood, the tubes. You have, so you would be like right there, like right where they shot off.
This is sergeant.
And then you have, I was down. My family was doing it. Fireworks. So it was, yeah, so I don't know if
Yeah, you're really great.
yeah, it was, especially when it got to this couple. Yeah.
Going down to. That's Take till one day and Wednesday off. You won't get the email.
I missed them.
Yeah.
That's what he says. So he's like, I'm not taking any calls or emails.
Hard to not.
I have trust issues.
The older I get,
With my staff.
the more I was.
Yes.
I think it's the. Son is like, nah.
Perfect legislation.
Your name on there.
Can you imagine? Solar.
So they're not.
Yes.
We finally got that. Last year. I thought we So we did the score and I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. I'm like, well, I'm sure it will save. He was like, that's good to do. And my wife's like, what happens if it works longer? I was like, yeah, I like that number. Yes. I got more than the invitation. Oh.
So you got a name on.
We made it.
That sounds cool. No, I thought it was nice.
So my kids are gonna be really. Because I got trouble on my. She's like, what are you trying to see, Justin?
Well, we didn't.
I know not to say that.
I don't love that spot because I got so, I move over here.
That's Oh, yeah.
No, not yet. No matter. I don't want to. Sure. Shouldn't have been both on that journey, but that's okay. I woke up, Nelson like out, I rat walked in, it's like, oh.
Nice club.
You don't want to know the fucking seats.
Yeah.
You guys go out for any?
Then we got to pick up. Lights goes on.
Hanging in there. Well, it's, I think so. It's a benchmark system. Yeah.
Wow, we go there.
I'm sending you. I could not even tell you. Right now. Company. And anytime you want to come. I know.
You're next witness.
Loading PowerPoint, or if we're gonna slightly change the batting. Witness availability, I would call Mike the word. He is the, traffic, criteria and six.
You sound like Sir Parker, I think testimony about given in this case, you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing about the truth.
I didn't.
Good morning. My name is Michael Worthman, principal.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
We had. Sit here.
Can you hear me better?
Swap. You swap seats with everybody.
There's a problem at AC. Can you hear me now? Okay, Michael Worthman, KLOA, Kenny Lindgren, O'Hara from the we're a traffic and transportation firm, Rosemont, Illinois. I am a registered professional engineer in the state of Illinois. I'm a certified professional traffic operations engineer, BTOE. I have a bachelor's in science and civil engineering from Michigan State University. I have 34 years of experience in traffic engineering for both public and private sectors. I've provided testimony on over 25 solid waste related projects. I'm here to discuss criterion 6, which indicates that traffic to and from the proposed facility are so designed as to minimize the impact on the existing traffic flows. Once again, the impact on the existing traffic flows. This task was completed by conducting a traffic impact study. The traffic study was based on the methodology accepted. The first phase examines the existing physical and operating characteristics of the roadway system. The second phase looks at the characteristics of the proposed facility, including the type and volume of traffic that will be generated and the travel routes that will be used to travel to and from the facility. The third phase is the evaluation phase, when we evaluate the impact of the facility generated traffic on the roadway system. I think we all know where the site is located. It's on the west side of 47th Street, just north of 78th Avenue, as you can see on this slide. So let's talk about the existing conditions. Some of the tasks that were completed were performing field evaluation, field surveys of the site to determine the physical and operating roadway condition. We collected and reviewed available transportation related data and information. We also conducted peak period traffic counts at critical intersections in the site vicinity. Several of the roads serving the facility include 78th Avenue or Indiana Bluff Road, which is located just south of the site. It's an east-west collector road, has a 2-lane cross-section, signalized intersection with Rock Island on Parkway, as well as US Route 150. It's got a daily traffic volume of about 4,500 vehicles, according to ICE. And it's under the jurisdiction of the Rock Island County Highway Department between the Rock Island Milan Parkway and US Route 150. Rock Island Milan Parkway is located just west of the site, north-south major arterial roadway, a 4-lane cross-section divided by a median, got a signalized intersection with 78th Avenue and a grade separated interchange with Airport Road. Daily volume of 18,000 vehicles north of 78th Avenue and 10,600 vehicles south of 78th Avenue. And the road is under the jurisdiction of IA. US Route 150 is located just east of the site. This slide is wrong. It's actually a north-south arterial roadway, not an east-west. I apologize for that. It has a 2-lane cross-section with a signalized intersection with 78th Avenue. Daily volume of just under 10,000 vehicles north of 78th Avenue, 9,300 vehicles south of 78th Avenue, under the jurisdiction of IDA. Last 2 roads we want to discuss are 47th Street and 50th Street. They are both north-south local roads. They have 2-lane cross sections. Both roads are under stop sign control at their intersection with 78th Avenue. North of 78th Avenue, both roads are industrial/business park, and are under the jurisdiction of the city of Moline. South of 78th Avenue, both roads serve a residential area and under the jurisdiction of the Black Hawk Road District. This slide shows the existing roadway characteristics within the study area. Next slide, please. In order to determine the existing volumes on the roadway system, traffic counts were performed on Thursday, September 27th, 2022 at the following 5 intersections. 78th Avenue with Rock Island, Moline Parkway, US Route 150, 78th Avenue with 47th Street, 78th Avenue with 50th Street, and 77th Avenue, 47th Street. The traffic counts were performed for a 12-hour period from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Weekday morning peak hour traffic occurred from, once again, we have the typo here, from 7:15 to 8:15 a.m. in the morning. And the evening peak hour traffic occurred from 3:30 to 4:30 p.m. Those are the 2 peak hours on the roadway system. They represent the commuter peak period. That's when the traffic volumes are at the highest on the roadway system. As traffic engineers, we look at these volumes. We can accommodate these volumes. We can accommodate the volumes of traffic any other hour of the day because the volume is much lower. So this shows the existing traffic volumes. The numbers are hard to see, but just so you know, the numbers without parents represent the morning peak hour traffic volumes. The number in parentheses represent the evening peak hour traffic volumes. And as you can see, it shows the individual movements, left turn through right turn movement at each of the intersections, 5 intersections within the study area. That represents the existing conditions. Let's talk about the characteristics of the proposed facility. This included a summary of its operations. We also looked at the directional distribution analysis, the routes that the various vehicles will take to and from the facility, the volume of traffic that will be generated by the facility, as well as the future traffic assignments. I'm sure as you've heard already, the facility will accept up to 500 tons of waste recyclables per day. We're talking a total of 500 tons of waste. Of this waste, up to 400 tons will be municipal solid waste. Up to 80 tons will be hydro excavation waste. Up to 25 tons will be source separated recyclables. And up to 15 tons will be landscape waste. So we'll have a total of 520 tons of waste recyclables per day. The proposed transfer station will receive waste recyclables from 5 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, 5 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Saturdays. The last load will be transferred from the facility by 7 p.m. There may be times when some loads are transferred out after 7 p.m. as needed. The proposed facility is projected to have approximately 31 total employees. Excellent. Site access. Access will be provided via 2 one-way access drives located on the west side of 47th Street at the north and south ends of the site. The north access drive will be restricted to inbound only access. The south access drive will be restricted to outbound access only. Both access drives will provide 1 lane. The south access drive, since it's an outbound lane, will have a stop sign, will be under stop sign control at its intersection with 47th Street. Both drives will provide wider lanes and larger radii in order to accommodate the turning truck traffic. This is a site plan I'm sure Mr. Moose went over yesterday. As you can see, the north drive at the top right of the plan, that will be the inbound only access drive. And then you have the outbound access drive down on the south end of the proposed facility. As part of the facility, the development of the facility, the radius in the northwest corner of the intersection of 78th Avenue and 47th Street will be increased, slightly increased in order to accommodate the turning truck traffic as it exits 47th Street, southbound 47th Street, makes the right turn and go westbound on 78th Avenue. So we'll be widening that out. Lakeshore Recycling will be paying for those improvements, and it will be a part of the proposed facility. In addition, Lakeshore Recycling will be responsible for its share of road repair and maintenance costs an approximate 1,600-foot section of 47th Street that extends from the north property line of the site south to 47th Street. So it's that yellow portion. Lakeshore will be responsible for the cost of the portion of the road that they will be using from 47th Street up to the north part of the site. So we will be doing intersection improvements, and we'll be also responsible for the portion of 47th Street that the truck traffic will be traversing to and from the facility. Next, let's talk about the directional distribution, or how the traffic will be coming to and from the facility. First, let's talk about the inbound waste. This is the waste that is delivered by collection vehicles. These are the single unit trucks, packer trucks, roll-off trucks that you see within your residential neighborhoods or in the commercial areas. These trucks will be servicing an area that is an approximate 15-mile radius from the site, and will include all those in Rock Island County. And we're looking at servicing all of Rock Island County, in addition to about a 15-mile radius from the facility. The traffic is projected to be distributed along the roadway system. In our study area, or our service area, excuse me, the inbound trucks, or the inbound waste, the collection trucks, will be throughout the various roads during the facility. The outbound waste will all be transferred via transfer trailers, which can accommodate 4 to 6 times as much waste as a single or as a collection truck. It will be transported from the proposed facility to a distant disposal facility. The routes that will be used will be 47th Street, 78th Avenue, to Rock Island, Moline Parkway, to Airport Road, to I-280. So they're going to come down 47th, down 78th Avenue, to Rock Island. They'll use the interchange to get to Airport Road, and then use the interchange at I-280 to get on the freeway system and travel to the distant disposal facility. This slide discusses the trip generation that is estimated to be generated by the proposed facility. It was based on the magnitude and characteristics of the proposed facility and its intended service area. As we indicated, the facility will accept and transfer a maximum of 500 tons of waste recyclables per day. We'll have approximately 31 employees. This table shows the traffic that's projected to be generated during those critical morning and evening peak hours that we discussed earlier, where the volumes on the roadway are at their highest. As you can see at the bottom where it says total, we're looking at the facility generating 12 inbound trips and 7 outbound trips during the morning peak hour, and about 11 inbound trips and 26 outbound trips during the evening peak hour. It's important to note that a good portion of these trips include employee traffic, particularly in the evening peak hour. So it's not all truck traffic. There is some employee traffic in this morning and evening peak hour time. Lastly, under the section 2, we looked at future growth in the area. So in addition to the traffic generated by the proposed transfer station, the study also considered the increase in traffic from projected ambient growth in the area. Based on information provided by the bi-state regional commission, the traffic volumes in the area, all of the existing traffic volumes were increased by 25% to represent year 2028 background traffic volumes. As part of this study, we looked at 3 conditions. We looked at the existing conditions, the year 2022 existing conditions. We looked at the year 2028 background for no bill traffic volumes. These are the year 2022 volumes increased by percent to represent that base volume. And then we looked at the year 2028 total projected volumes, which includes those background volumes plus the traffic to be generated by the. This slide shows the traffic assignment for the traffic to be generated by the proposed facility, both in the morning and evening peak periods. The next slide shows the background traffic volumes, year 2028. And the next slide shows the total projected traffic volumes, once again, which includes the existing traffic volumes increased by 25%, plus the traffic to be generated by the proposed facility. So the last phase of the study is the evaluation phase. What we looked at is a summary of how intersections are evaluated, the criteria. We summarize the result of the analysis. We also performed an evaluation of the site access. The traffic analysis were performed using the highway capacity software, the HCS software. That's kind of a long sentence, so bear with me. The ability of an intersection to accommodate traffic flow is expressed in terms of level of service, which is assigned a letter grade from A to F based on the average delay experienced at an intersection. So like a grading school or grading system in school, intersections are graded on an A to F scale based on how long you wait at an intersection. Level of service is A. Level of service A is the best. Traffic flow where you have very minimal delay, you're not waiting at all. Level of service F, where you got oversaturated conditions and extensive delays. In a city like Moline, level of service anywhere from A to C is very good. In an urban area, in the Chicagoland area, level of service D is generally considered acceptable. So based on the capacity analysis and the gap study, what we found out that under existing conditions, the two signalized intersections within the study area and the critical movement at all of the stop sign controlled intersections currently operate at a good level of service B or C. When we look at projected conditions, once again, with the 25% growth, as well as the traffic to be generated by the facility, the two signalized intersections and the critical movements at the stop sign controlled intersections are projected to continue to operate at a good level of service B or C, kind of maintaining that level of service B or C. As such, the existing roadway system has sufficient reserve capacity to accommodate the additional traffic to be generated by the proposed facility. Further, the results of the gap study, what a gap study does, it looks at how many gaps are in the roadway system. So when you're pulling out of a side street, do you have enough gaps in the roadway system to pull out? So we went out and did a gap study, and what that showed is that there's more than sufficient gaps are available in the 78th Avenue traffic speed to accommodate the traffic that will be turning to and from 47th Street. So as you pull out of 47th Street or you make a left turn into 47th Street, you need a gap in traffic to make that maneuver. What we found out is that more than sufficient gaps in 78th Avenue, partly because 78th Avenue is operating at about 50% of its capacity right now. Other than the radius improvement at the 78th Avenue 47th Street intersection, no additional roadway improvements, traffic control modifications are required to accommodate the proposed facility. Site access, once again, will be provided via two one-way access drives located on the west side of 47th Street. The north access drive will be restricted to inbound only access, and the south will be restricted to outbound only access. Both access drives will provide one lane, with the outbound lane at the south access drive under stop sign control. Wider lanes and larger radii will be provided at the access drives in order to accommodate the turning truck traffic. And our evaluation has shown, and the capacity analysis has shown, that the access system has been designed to provide efficient and orderly access with limited impact on the 47th Street through traffic. So based on the KLOA analysis described in this study, in my testimony, it is our finding that the proposed facility has been designed to minimize the impact on the existing traffic flows and therefore complies with the 6 citing criteria. This opinion is based on several things. First, the facility is projected to process a maximum of only 500 tons of waste recyclable per day and will have a total of 31 employees. 2, the volume of traffic generated in any one time period is limited, as the traffic will be distributed throughout the day. The access system has been designed to provide efficient and orderly access with limited impact on the 47th Street through traffic. Radius in the northwest corner of 78th Avenue, 47th Street intersection will be improved in order to accommodate the turning truck traffic. The roadway system has sufficient reserve capacity to accommodate the traffic to be generated by the transfer station. And other than the radius improvements, no additional roadway improvements or traffic control modifications are required to accommodate the transfer station.
Thank you, Mr. Worthman. We'll tend to the witness for cross.
Thank you, Mr. Whitman. And for the record, the PowerPoint presentation is part of applicant's exhibit number 3 and will be added to the live stream. Let's submit this to see if she said have any questions of this witness.
Yes, we do. Just a couple of questions. Mr. Worthman, you had done a gap study, you talked about as part of the traffic impact analysis. And that's just to determine whether there are enough gaps in the roadway traffic system in order to make turns.
Correct.
And you also testified, and there's a slide that went up that the traffic from the facility, when it was leaving, it's going to be going south down 47 and then going east, so taking a right-hand turn onto 78th Avenue, correct?
Yes.
Excuse me, west.
Yeah.
So
The transfer trailers will be making right turns.
they'll be making right turns.
Yes.
You did not do a gap analysis with them making left turns.
We did, well, the gap analysis looks at it. We based it on the fact that the transfer trailers will all be traveling based on the route that we indicated in the study. That's the quickest and most direct route to the interchange. I-280.
Okay, so the intention is that the trucks leaving the facility are going to be heading west,
The transfer trailer.
transfer trailer.
Yes.
Okay, so if the city staff recommended a condition that restricts the transfer station, transfer trailers from making that left-hand turn and going westbound on 78th Avenue, would LRS agree to that?
I think that question's confusing. Could you restate it, please?
Sure. If the city staff recommended a condition restricting the transfer trailers from making a left-hand turn onto eastbound 78th Avenue from the north leg of 47th Street, would LRS agree? Also, this intersection at 78th Avenue and 47th Street, that is an unsignalized intersection, correct?
Correct.
There's no stop signs, there's no traffic lights. And there's a stop sign.
The stop sign on
Stop sign.
47th Street.
On 47th.
Yes.
Correct. So there is a, at the intersection, we've got a shared, I don't know, you do it, okay, that is up. You got the shared left turn through lane, a separate right turn lane on the westbound approach. Correct? Okay, and so the trucks that are traveling westbound, approaching 47th Street, they'll be making a right turn to go north on 47.
Correct.
Correct, okay. And they'll be using a separate right turn lane to make that turn.
There's pavement there that looks like it was a right turn lane at one time. We didn't analyze it with the right turn lane and it works, but yes, they'll probably use that right turn lane when they make their right turn into it.
Okay, so the right turn lane, it's a deceleration lane
Correct.
so that they slow down to make the turn. They get out of the way of the other traffic.
Yeah.
So should that deceleration lane be marked so the vehicles can identify that lane and locate it when they're making the turn?
Yeah, it could help the
Okay.
situation. Yes.
So if the city staff recommended the condition that westbound deceleration lane at 78th Avenue and 47th Street be marked or striped to help define it. Would LRS be willing to approach the county highway authority to get that done and fund it?
Yes. As long as the county approves,
Thank you.
no problem.
We had a couple of questions last night about this citizen convenience area. I think that'll be the same thing. Mr. Ruffin, you're aware that where the citizen convenience area is?
Yeah.
And we had some testimony about it last night. Have you had much experience with these types of drop-off locations before?
Through my years of experience, I understand that they're usually pretty low.
Pretty well.
Volume of traffic at any one time is relatively low. Maybe a little higher on Saturdays, but in general, they're relatively low.
I think that there was some testimony last night from Mr. Moose that there might be 67 vehicles a day. Is that sound about right?
My experience, yes, and I rely on Mr. Moose's experience.
So you didn't do a separate estimate about how many vehicles would be coming in?
We did not include the citizen drop off in our numbers. We even doubled our numbers. There's still sufficient reserve capacity to accommodate this traffic. More importantly, citizen drop off, passenger vehicles, typically, trucks, those sort of things, which operate much more efficiently than a single unit truck or a transport trailer. So I don't see an issue at all with any citizen drop off at this facility.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, no further questions.
Commercial, anything from Group O?
Yeah, just a couple things. Mr. Whitman, I think on your slide, you said that you spent, 1 day sampling the existing traffic counts.
We've actually counted them a couple different times as we started this 7 years ago, but our last counts were done in 2022.
Okay, so the data that you presented is based just on that 1 day, it's based on the days.
Or we checked the data and we other volumes, but yeah, it's more than 1 day, and we've done some out there over the last couple of years.
You also mentioned that Lakeshore was responsible for its share of road maintenance costs. Can you expand on that a little bit on 47th Avenue? Are they responsible for 100% maintenance costs? Or and if so, whatever the percentage is that contained in the host agreement? Where's that at?
I would have to defer. I'm not sure of the mechanics of it. But I know they're gonna pay their fair share and we'll do what's necessary to keep that road in proper condition.
Also, that provision is in the lease with the airport.
Okay, so it's in the lease with the airport, even though the roads belong to the city of Moline. Well, I'm just looking for where's the commitment from Lakeshore to the city of Moline that they're gonna be responsible for repairs and maintenance on that road, because it's gonna be primarily Lakeshore that is driving trucks on that road.
I believe, council, again, I don't want to testify, but my understanding is that the airport authority has jurisdiction over the roadways in that area. That's why the provisions in our lease with them.
I think, well, so you think it's in the airport?
Yeah, I know it is.
Okay, so it's in the airport lease. I think Mr. Whitman, you testified that the jurisdiction of those roads, they're the city of Moline, but they're in the Black Hawk Road District.
South of 78th Ave.
South of 78th Avenue. So would you agree that the roads then north 47th Avenue, is that under the jurisdiction of the airport?
I think there's, I'm not sure if it's the airport authority or the city of Moline. It was my understanding was the city of Moline, but I could be mistaken on that, given the county over here.
I guess my point is like you're willing to agree that whether the authority needs to come from the airport authority or the city of Moline, that there will be an agreement in place.
Condition, if the city proposes it, that we, do our proportionate, share of, maintenance on, the road. And that way it becomes an obligation directly to the city of Moline.
So that's
So make it to the city council.
Yeah, we know that the waste transfer facility's maximum daily load will be 520 tons of waste per day. How, based on that maximum number, what is the maximum number of trucks that would be in the facility?
Approximately at 520, it will be about 137 trucks. 20 of those will be transfer trailers, larger trucks, and the other 117 approximately be single unit trucks. Collection trucks, roll-off trucks.
And your numbers account for this maximum
Yes.
usage.
Yes.
And based on your analysis of roadway capacity and construction standards, is that load excessive for the design capacity of those roads?
No, particularly from a capacity standpoint, all the loads are working at a level of service A, B, or C, which is excellent. 78th Avenue has less than 5,000 vehicles. A two-lane road typically has 10,000 vehicles, so it's operating at 50% capacity. And more importantly, the route the transfer trailers are taking are going to arterial roadways from Parkway to Airport Road to I-280. They're only on the roadway system for just 3 miles. But we get them right to I-280, they're on the freeway. They're off to that distant disposal facility. So it's actually located in a great location. More importantly, within a business industrial park and designed to accommodate this type of traffic.
Now, we know too that they're going to be parking trucks on the property from time to time. That part of the operation is completely clear on, but does that amplify the number of trucks that may be exiting the property at any one time?
No, it actually reduces the volume of traffic we'll generate. And the last load of the day, the truck can stay there, doesn't have to leave to go be parked somewhere else. Likewise, in the morning, it just leaves and comes back. So having truck parking on the facility actually reduces the volume of traffic on the roadway system, improves capacity, reduces that wear and tear of the roadway system.
Okay, and one last question about wear and tear. The current conditions of the roads, is there an immediate need to do repair beyond improvements beyond those that you've talked about to ensure that they're not going to degrade rapidly because of the increase in traffic?
I'm not a structural engineer, so I've driven them. They look like they're in good shape. A lot of potholes or anything to that extent. All of these roads are designed to accommodate the type of truck traffic that we're using here. So appears to me they're in more than sufficient structural shape, but I will qualify that I'm not a structural engineer.
Understood. Nothing to say there.
No redirect, thank you.
Thank you.
Your next witness here, Mr. Moore?
Yes, he is. You ready, Mr. Walsh, will call Michael Marie.
Exactly, Mr. Worker. This one here, so I was speaking to
You ready?
I am.
State your full name and spell your last name for the court.
Michael S. Maroons, MAROUS.
And sir, what do you do for a living?
I am a professional real estate advisor, a real estate consultant, and have been so for over 40 years. I'm general certified, which is the highest For a licensure in the state of Illinois, also in the neighboring states of Iowa and Wisconsin. I also hold the MAI designation and I graduated from University of Illinois Champaign with a degree in finance specialization on the land.
Mr. Rue, were you retained by Lakeshore to perform the criteria 3B evaluation?
Yes, I was.
Did you prepare a report with your results?
I did.
Is that in the application?
Yes,
Did you also prepare a PowerPoint presentation which summarizes and condenses your report?
I did.
Would you proceed with that, please?
Sure. So.
Again, this PowerPoint is part of the applicant's exhibit number 3.
So briefly, I started this power. The first page is just a summary of my experience. I've had leadership positions with the Appraisal Institute. I've been invited to membership of the councils of real estate, sale international board. I published lectures, I've appraised over 12,000 properties, including I think Sun Park Mall in your planning area, some other major properties, part of railroad expansion a few years ago. I testified before numerous ZBA plan commissions on former mayor of Park Ridge, 38,000 suburban town in the Chicago metropolitan area. But I prepared over 200 market value impact studies in my career. And this has to do with proposed uses for, annexation, zoning uses, and it could go from a quarry. It can go from a landfill, it can go from a church, it can go from a commercial building, industrial buildings. I've also been involved in a lot of renewable energy projects, major solar, major wind. And so I've had experience in these types of situations. So, and my report really was to evaluate if the facility is located so as to minimize the effect of the value of the surrounding property. So briefly, I was retained by Lakeshore to perform an independent analysis. And Marusa and Company, we have, I think, 8 full-time employees and we're independent of Lakeshore. And it's the first job we've ever done for them. But to analyze based on the application, the various other studies, including, as you just heard, Mr. Northman's, to minimize the effect of the value on surrounding property. So what we did is provide a report over 50 pages long called the property value impact. And we considered, and I've inspected the area 3 times, considered the nature of the immediate area and the value trends in the area. Also evaluated sales data in the area and the effect on property. So demographic, tons of development, and also looked at matched pairs from another transfer facility to see their impact on properties, and also consider the highest and best use analysis. Both design, I believe everybody has heard this, and kind of the evaluation end is this is approximately a 10-acre site, and improvements are going to be in the low 30,000 per square foot of total building area. So the way the building ratio is over 10 to 1. Typical industrial is 2 to 3 to 1. So what does this mean? It means that it's very low density as far as building improvements. The other issue is it's built with basically modern, aesthetically pleasing industrial, kind of consistent with other modern industrial development that we look at all the time. And then it's heavily screened with landscaping, fencing, which has a basically the use of screen uses. I consider the fueling station, but with the waste transfer, it's really goes to how the product goes in, and is it in an enclosed building, are all services done in an enclosed building? And then they involve, stormwater management, and then the whole traffic issue, which you just heard before. And so the proposed operation, again, in my observation, having looked at numerous of these facilities over the last 10 years or so, this is basically state of the art. It's well designed. It's not tight. It's not an infill. It's got a very high, positive land to building ratio. It's very well screened. Again, the operation takes place inside the improvement. So again, I think you've heard summary of what I have here. The nature of the immediate area, in my opinion, the dominant use is the Quad Cities Airport. The subject is in an industrial park. There are several available industrial sites. The development of this park has been very slow to evolve. And, part of the consideration is looking at trends of industrial development in the Quad City area, also obviously in Iowa. Looked in mobile home park, which was developed over 60 plus years ago, lies immediately east. Based on my consultation evaluation with modern mobile home parks, this one probably is not the type that meets the standards of many parks in developments. And then the National Guard facility is south across from the mobile home park. And this slide, which I apologize, is a little hard to read, but it basically is looking at land value in the area. And what we did here is did research on land sales and basically looked at location, looked at when they sold, looked at the price, looked at the lot size, looked at the price per square foot. And it's not a real active industrial market. And looked at the trends of development. And based on these sales, in my opinion, the effect on industrial property is positive, clearly not negative. Effect on residential property, because it's so designed in industrial park, and it's clearly impacted by the proximity of the airport and the other industrial uses, the residential uses. Let's try to say, wait a second. Obviously, I screwed up the way, so I apologize. But basically, on the bottom of the screen, kind of shows some of the single family, which in that area is pretty heavily wooded and really isolated from most use. Net fair analysis, this basically is looking to find sales proximate to a waste transfer facility or any other. Let's say I'm looking at solar, I'm looking at wind, I'm looking at a property that's close to one of those uses, and then a similar property, generally the same school district, same age, same characteristics, to a property, and to see if there's any difference in value because of the proximity of the use. And this situation is actually done by O'Hare, which is incredibly busy, active industrial area of it, and proximity or the addition and the existing use of waste transfer. The highest and best use, I won't bore you, but it's basically the highest and best use of the property can put. So it goes to physically possible. So the site is physically possible for use, legally permissible. That's obviously based on the decision you will make, and the use which is financially feasible, which I think you've heard that the revenue generated and the various tax revenue is quite significant. And in a way, because you're not adding school children, you're really not adding the strain on public safety it has the similar economic return of, let's say, a large big box, you know, let's say a Menards or something like that. So there's a significant economic viability. So looking at the reasonable probability that there is approvals for the highest value is for the proposed use. So the physically possible, again, I just kind of ran through and analyze each of the characteristics, which again, you've heard the size, it's got utilities available, it's got access. There's a small wetlands, which is not being disturbed. We want the commercial, small again, it's zoned I2, so it's in the industrial district. Permitted uses are fairly extensive. And the proposed use would be a special use under the app. So it's financially feasible. Again, significant revenue generated by Lake Shore revenue to the various taxing bodies. So the conclusion, in my opinion, that this proposed use is the highest and best use of the site. And the conclusion based on the entire study, which I know I've gone through, is the proposed transfer station is located as to minimize the effect on the value of the surrounding property. The basis, you know, it's been well located, designed, and proposed to be operated to protect the public health, safety, welfare. Design includes the excessive buffer surrounding residential properties are buffered by existing industrial uses. And there are many sites that are still used for agricultural. And the facility has a control, staffing, and equipment requirements and cleaning procedures. And then in conclusion, the areas surrounding the facilities is industrial nature. The mobile home park to the east is situated within the industrial district. It is significantly affected by the surrounding uses at the airport, and that mobile home park is not fully occupied, and in my opinion, does not reflect the modern standards and maintenance levels counted by modern mobile home parks. The industrial nature of the immediate area has existed for a significant time period and is anticipated to remain in use for the foreseeable future. There appears to be limited demand for new industrial development in the market. And as I just went through, the proposed use is considered to be the highest and best use. And in my opinion, the proposed facility will not have a negative property value impact on properties in the immediate area and on the neighboring properties. Sorry to go so fast.
Mr. Maroon, thank you. We'll tender the witness request.
Thank you, Mr. News. Steve, have any questions?
No question.
Mr. Marshall?
Mr. Sorry. In your, so you conducted a match paired analysis.
Yeah.
And could you just explain a little bit more about what the match paired analysis is?
Basically, you try and find, they're not going to be identical, but you try and find two houses that have similar characteristics, lot size, building size, function, modernization, that basically appeal to the same buyer. And then in a situation waste transfer station, you look at sale that's proximate to a waste transfer facility, and one having these characteristics that's not. And that's what was done here.
Okay. Is it limited to in the same type of zoning? So for example, I noticed in your report that you only evaluated industrial properties. Did you do any kind of, or did you get some comparable or matched pairs involving residential properties that would be affected by a transfer station?
Yes, I did. But they weren't, data was not as available But and again, going back to the area, just west of O'Hare, the closest houses, actually same distance as probably to the subject, except there's a lot of intervening industrial uses, so.
I'm sorry, you're trailing off both. Intervening.
Industrial uses in between the residences and waste transfer facility. So I studied those, but they really didn't show any indication.
Okay, and did you include those residential comparables in your report?
I did not.
Okay, so you studied them, but you didn't include them in your report.
That's correct.
Okay. How about golf courses? There's golf course down the street. Did you run a math pair or an impact study about what the decrease in the value, say, of a golf course would be that's located near transportation?
It's a very good question. And when looking at it, there wasn't a gap here. The subject is really, the subject there is more impacted by, in my opinion.
I'm sorry. Trailing off again.
It's more impacted by the land makes and takeoffs by the adjoining airport. So I didn't find anything that I would say to be comparable, but golf course uses having appraised many and looked at them on the open space standpoint. They have a variety of uses that, can be heavily commercial, can be heavily industrial, proximity to major airports. So, I mean, there's really not a clear determination on that one.
Okay. How about to the west? There are some commercial properties. I think Blackhawk Bank is located there. There's a coffee shop. Did you do any kind of impact analysis on what the effect of the value would be on those kinds of properties?
I looked at the commercial impact and clearly many waste transfer stations are located in proximity to commercial properties. So those who screen all commercial properties are used to having traffic because of generally on these arterials. So I didn't find any gaps there. So based on my experience, particularly with the quality of design and the low at the building ratio, I didn't see any impact on commercial properties.
Okay, so in terms of the surrounding properties, we've identified there's residential, there's commercial, there's a golf course. I'm sure that's the use. And but the only data that you've included in your report is a comparison to industrial properties. Is that right?
Yes.
And then I just wanted to talk about using data from the Chicago area. The sales were all, I think you said, in Chicago next to or around O'Hare. Is that accurate?
They're suburban Chicago. Suburban modern industrial of high value properties. Yes.
Is there a reason why you didn't try to use an area or region that may be more like Quad Cities in the area that you're evaluating? So, for example, I asked because the property market in and around O'Hare is pretty saturated. Right? I mean, there's not a lot of availability in terms of vacant land. It's all being used.
It's heavily built up, correct?
Yeah. So, for example, in Chicago or the surrounding areas, somebody may not have the option if they don't like a certain location to go down the street and to choose a different location. Would that be, you agree with that?
Well, that's the situation in almost every market, depending on the demands and the site selection. But yes, in my opinion, the suburban Chicago showed an inferior waste transfer facility, but located in a very desirable industrial area. Continual sale, resale, demand for vacant land, and much higher value properties indicated here. And again, when you talk about quad cities, I didn't think it was fair to go to rural Illinois or Iowa to look at examples on quad cities and more comparability to, let's say, a suburban location and something that was extremely rural as some of these other transfer facilities would get out of the major markets.
Well, are there some others? So for example, what about Cedar Rapids, both that have international airports, but in terms of population density and availability of land and such, isn't that more comparable to quad cities than say Chicago?
They're smaller markets, similar to the quad cities. So yes, I'm familiar and have done work in both those markets in the last several years. And cursory, I didn't see any good examples that I could use, but I am familiar with the markets. The Moline market is particularly strong in the last 3 or 4 years with recession and all.
Did you, in terms of your analysis and on the effect of the value of property, would you agree that there would be a difference between property that's say a mile and a half away from the facility, or facility, transfer facility, sorry, versus maybe right across the street?
It depends on the situation and the uses a mile and a half away and the routes and traffic, but clearly proximity is generally more important when making that analysis.
And in your report, were you able to collect, and I guess start that rephrase, what's the closest comparable property in your master care analysis that you used to determine an adverse effect on value?
I refer my report to Jack.
We gotta read from this also page.
So on page 53, match pair 1, the approximate facility is a quarter mile from the transfer station. At page 56, match pair 2, the approximate was 0.7 miles away. Match pair 3 was the same 0.75 miles away. None were across the street.
That affects, you were evaluating the effect of a property value on a piece of property that was across the street from the transfer station. Will that change your analysis?
And again, looking at the existing uses of the subject and the high quality of this proposed facility and the very low end building ratio, in my opinion, the situation now.
Is it your opinion that putting a transfer facility in this location is more or less likely to attract new business to the area?
The big picture, in my opinion, because of the quality and the aesthetics of the facility, an indication of major investment in modern industrial and the addition of the positive economics to the community, it would be positive to the development. Quite frankly, there hasn't very little development there for the last decade plus. So there's no guarantee that it's going to add to this, but there's no some indication of life with modern development that hasn't existed in the last decade. So that would be a significant positive rather than sites that just remain fat.
So the reason I asked that is based on that I read in your report, which is, it sounds like you're saying that, well, this area hasn't really been developed for a long time. It's planned to have been developed, it just hasn't come to fruition. So we might as well put a garbage transfer station there. That sounds like what you're saying. Is that an adequate characterization of your testimony?
So that was a very creative question or statement. And I, the first part of it, that there hasn't been much development. But from having probably 2,000 industrial buildings and looking at thousands of pets, you don't always know what was inside. And a lot of times that changes. So the way this site is so developed, clearly when you see the trucks going in and out, there's an indication, but it's just another modern industrial use. And, there's perceptions that some people will look at other uses better than others. I was just involved in a deal which involved an Amazon grocery store, which you would have thought it would have been very positive, kind of state of the art. The community considered that distribution center was something art. So it's all perception. And a lot of people don't like any development. Then when nothing gets done, then they wonder what's happened. And that is really that gray of uncertainty is a big negative impact on value. Millions of dollars in modern development is very much positive.
I don't think I.
Mr. Tillman, anything from the city council?
Yeah, Mr. Marshall got to a lot of the questions I had, but I did have one. Does the density around the O'Hare site minimize valuation impacts because of the intensity of intervening uses? In other words, do those uses act like a buffer to minimize any potential valuation impact?
I think density in an industrial park can have an impact. But what it does do is it kind of amplifies the obsolete buildings, and particularly when you got tight land building ratios. A lot of the properties right around that example have a 1.5 or 2 to 1 land building. So for this type site, they would probably only have 70,000 to 80,000 square feet of land as opposed to 400,000 square feet plus. So it kind of cuts both ways. But yes, there's more building blockage, there's more density, it becomes less attractive, more congested, and more problems with traffic issues.
You've done valuation impact studies for similar types of facilities before?
Yeah.
Okay. And based upon those studies that you've done, have these facilities served, in your experience, as a disincentive for future investment?
The older ones that are fully planned that have a tight land to building ratio that don't control the uses inside the buildings, that have maintenance issues, clearly that's not a positive use. But the state of the art modern ones that have the ability for them to bring providing screening in a high quality facility, no, it's not a disincentive.
So if LRS does all the site design as they've testified here, as their witnesses have testified here, and operate the facility in accordance to the various plans, in your professional estimation, that will ensure that any negative external effects of the property are minimized and won't act as a barrier to future investment.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Mueller, any correct?
Just a couple. Mr. Marouz, you talked about highest and best use, and indicated youth on development of this site as a transfer station with the design proposed would constitute the highest and best use of the property.
Yes,
Does highest and best use suggest also that that is a use which would minimize adverse property value impacts?
yes, under the, legal portion of IC use, that's correct.
Now, the criterion is to determine whether or not the proposed project minimizes impact on property values, right?
Yes,
So some impact might even be assumed in the criteria, correct?
possibly. I'm not making it legal.
But in any event, with regard to the minimization, do you think this site and this proposed transfer station minimizes the impact on surrounding property values?
In my opinion, it clearly does.
That's all. Thank you.
Good day from the chief staff.
No questions.
Mr. Maru, Mr. Mueller talked about highest and best use. Now, as an MAI, I'm sure that you follow and agree with all the publications.
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing that.
Oh, sorry about that. You would agree that the Appraisal Institute, which is a licensing body, is authoritative in terms of when it comes to the standards and things for highest and best use. You agree with that?
Again, that's the question. So I was chairman of publications for the appraisal institute for many years. I've cited it for the last 5 appraisal agency, which is the Bible. But there is differences of opinion among the appraisal community, but there is a consistency in some articles in the appraisal journal, which is peer reviewed, have differences in opinion. So the clear answer is generally yes, but not all.
Okay. So the reason I ask is, I think your report says that the highest and best use, in your opinion, is as a transfer station. Does the Appraisal Institute recognize a transfer station as a category of property? Isn't highest and best use either industrial or commercial or residential? It doesn't get down to those fine, that's actual uses of the property.
Another good question. So I had the honor of being involved with evaluation of and I get the honor of the valuation of the field. And clearly that's a one of a kind generated is for that use. And we're involved now in the Bear Potential Stadium out tonight. It's another similar, unique, special type of proposed use on a site. So, and the highest and best use, if there's an existing use, really the analysis is the property has improved, worth more than the land has vacant. The transfer station is just a subcategory of industrial use, I think, to answer your question.
Okay, so the highest and best use would be industrial, not necessarily a transfer station.
As a general category, it's vacant, correct.
And then one more question on the highest and best use. One of the categories in there to determine highest and best use is legally permissible.
That's correct.
If there were restrictive covenants on these lots which prohibited a waste facility, would that impact your highest and best use analysis?
I'm gonna object. That's beyond the scope of redirect.
It relates to highest and best use.
But
Well, it's not legally permissible, clearly it would impact highest and best use. I'm not a judge or an attorney, but that's just basically it's an appraisal looking at highest and best use. So
In your analysis, did you review the lots within the plat there to determine whether or not there would be any Covenants on those lots.
I'm gonna object, land use, restrictions are exempt under 39.2G.
He's asking a question about his analysis and creative report, but let him answer.
Can you repeat the question, please?
So in your analysis in determining the highest and best use of this property, it's contained within a subdivision plat.
Yes,
Did you review the subdivision plat or any restrictive covenants or any other ordinances that were restrictive covenants to determine whether or not it is permissible, legally permissible as part of the highest and best use of it?
and my answer would be mine was focused based requirements and not delving into other potential legal restrictions that go beyond the scope of my report.
One more question. Mr. Kentucky has a pretty good question, I think. So across the street, Grupo has a corporate headquarters. Why isn't a corporate headquarters considered to be a higher and better use than a transfer facility? They're both industrial.
Objection again beyond scope.
That's gonna be sustained.
Yeah, then we have nothing for.
So,
Just to be clear, this property is leased from the airport authority, correct?
Yes,
The airport authority is the owner of the property.
correct.
Is it safe? Measuring test. So based on the fact that the airport authority leased the property to LRS, we can take it. We can assume there's no restrictive covenants of the nature that Mr. Marsh is concerned about.
That's my assumption, but again, I'm not playing lawyer. Yes, if they, you know, it's just like when we look at leases where parties on both sides of the table, they can change the terms of the deal. And obviously, the airport having that control and then going into a lease, that was my assumption.
Thank you.
Mr. Mueller, anything else for this witness?
Nothing else, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burris. You have anything else, Mr. Mueller?
LRS rests.
City staff have any witnesses they want to present? Mr. Marshall, any witnesses?
Mr. Walsh, yes, we would like to call Mr. Kevin Kentucky. Sir, can we take a quick break before we begin?
We will, please.
He's on the sort of work from. When you're about to get in this case, will be the truth.
I do.
Mr. Quintek, please, remember to keep your voice up. Thank you.
So, thank you, Paul. Mr. Kentucky, are you currently employed?
Yes, I'm the CEO of Grupo,
And how long have you been CEO of Grupo?
about 18 months.
Okay. And could you provide some insider to track some of your business experience that you had prior to Grupo?
Prior to Grupo, I was CEO of Mike's Hard Lemonade, Mark Anthony Brands. Prior to that, I was CEO of Pabst Brewing Company. No, I didn't bring any here with me. Prior to that, I was CEO of Conag Refrigerated Foods, which was a $3 billion company with lots of different brands. Prior to that, I was CEO of Frost Candy, Frost Confections. I worked with Coors Brewing Company for a number of years, and I worked with Procter & Gamble for a number of years. And before that, I was in banking. So that's my background.
Okay. As throughout that extensive experience that you've gotten, you have the opportunity during that time to participate in divestitures, to sell real estate, those types of things.
Absolute sale, purchase, closing, divestiture, all the above.
And as a CEO, would you describe what some of your responsibilities are? Some of the things that you do as a CEO?
Well, my responsibilities are really twofold. One is to, safeguard and grow the assets of the owners of the company. And two is to, safeguard and provide for the communities and the people who live in those communities and their employees.
Okay. We've heard a lot of testimony. You've been here the last 2 days about the criteria, and I just want to touch on a couple of them. So one of the criteria is about need, and you've heard some testimony about whether or not this is needed. And as a business owner across the street from the transfer station, do you agree with that it's needed?
I would object. He's not qualified to opine on these.
I'll give a lot of you in this. Go ahead.
Well, what I heard yesterday was two things. One, I heard from a group of paid consultants that do not live in the area, do not work in the area, that there's a need for this facility to increase landfill capacity for the service area. I also understand from RICMA, they feel they have enough capacity in the near term. And then if there's a need for more capacity in the long term, they can tap into another 85 years worth. And of course, those are folks that are volunteers, unpaid, local community members whose primary job is to take care of the citizens in the communities in which they live and work. So that creates a question mark in my mind about, who's right and who's wrong. But the greatest irony, I guess, I have from listening to the testimony yesterday is that nothing that LRS is proposing is going to increase landfill capacity. It's a transfer station. So to listen to a 2-hour presentation about the need for landfill capacity strikes me as ironic in this case when transportation doesn't store things permanently. It just moves from one truck to another to a landfill. So a little bit surprised by the discussion we had, but that's my thought.
Okay. As part of the criteria about need, we've heard a lot about competition and how this would increase competition. As a business leader with experience as the CEO of local companies would obviously compete. Do you agree with that? That this
Objection, he's not qualified to opine on competition in the way that Mr. Kowalski did. He's not an expert. He's a layperson who happens to work near the site.
Mr. Wolf, this goes to weight. It doesn't go to admissibility.
Yeah, Mr. Mueller. I understand your objection. I'll give it out.
Competition is a thing. Competition is always a good thing. It's a good thing if it helps drive more efficient markets and drive prices down for consumers in the marketplace. I didn't hear anything yesterday other than an estimate provided by one of the witnesses that would suggest that the community and citizens are going to benefit from lower costs associated with the opening of this facility. I guess I heard an estimate that might save $1 a month if everything goes well. But I haven't heard anybody from LRS to commit to lower prices in the marketplace and saving money for consumers.
So I'm only reacting to the information that the expert witness for that. So, I'm all for competition. I just haven't seen any evidence presented so far that this is going to change the economic model for the citizens of the area.
You've also heard as part of the needs analysis, testimony regarding the benefits that would accrue to the city in terms of host fees and economic development. In your opinion, do you agree that this is going to be economically beneficial to the area?
Again, same objection. He's not qualified. He's not an economist or a planner.
Let me answer the question.
Thank you. I've run billion-dollar companies multiple times. I've dealt with a lot of analysis of profit and loss in economics in my time. While I don't have all the details of the financial arrangements between the City of Moline and LRS, it seems to me there's an opportunity to make maybe $500,000 to $700,000 a year between property taxes and fees that will be charged per ton as a result of this. Nothing to sneeze at. But as CEO, I can also tell you that I don't believe anyone's going to move in next to a transfer facility. The other remaining 8 to 10 lots, which would generate many multiples more in property tax revenues down the road, are going to be off the table. I can tell you personally, I was looking at expanding into the Moline Business Park with a very large facility before this happened. I think I'd be very hard pressed to recommend to the owner of my company that we invest millions of dollars in the facility now that the transfer facility proposal is in place. So I could be wrong. That's my experience over the last 40 years in running big companies. None of my peers are interested in moving in next to a transfer facility. Doesn't seem like a good way to appreciate property values. I understand Mr. Chris thinks it's a way to grow property values. I'd like to make a deal with them that for the next 5 years, property values go up around that area. He gets to keep it and he gets to subsidize me for the 10 to 15%. I think I'm going to lose after this facility goes in. I have tens of millions of dollars invested in facilities, which are.
There's no question pending. He's just off on a tangent.
Mr. Mueller, your witnesses testified at length without questions being asked of that, and I'm going to allow the same for this witness.
Thank you very much, Mr. Walsh. We have tens of millions of dollars in property across the street from this facility. And throughout the entire presentation that LRS gave, they never mentioned that those facilities were across the street. I never saw it in a picture. They talked about the National Guard, the golf course, the trailer court. It was almost like we missed these 200,000 square foot buildings that are exactly across the street, one of which is an international corporate headquarters. That's what concerns me about this project. If I lose 10 to 15% in my property values on those buildings, that's millions and millions of dollars. Millions of dollars. That's a very significant hit to the value of the corporation and its assets. Certainly, I'd be wiser to take the money that I think I'm going to lose in that investment and invest it in, further actions to try and prevent this facility going in than I would sit back and let that depreciation take place. There's no evidence anywhere that the values are going to go up if this facility goes in. My experience is it was going to go down. It's not the highest and best use. If you could get more corporate headquarters in, corporate headquarters employ more people, they create a better image. And to me, that's much higher and better than the transfer facility.
Mr. Katecki, you currently lease the property that, or Grupo currently leases the property from the municipal airport where Grupo's located, is that right?
Right.
And if I'm not mistaken, I believe your lease with the airport authority comes up for renewal in 2027. Is that right?
That's accurate.
That's accurate. What impact does the siting of this facility there have on a business decision to renew a lease there?
Well, we'd be foolish to make a rash decision about the impact of this until we figure out if it's actually going in and what the impact is on my ability to hire and retain employees and maintain the corporate image that I want for the business. Certainly over time, if that becomes a bigger and bigger issue, or I'm more concerned about the safety of the people in the business that use that area for exercise during the day, I may have to look somewhere else for corporate headquarters, which I don't think would be my first choice, but I have to consider the value of the company and ability to hire and recruit employees. So, I guess it's a little bit of a to be determined, but we have thousands of employees. Last count, well over 100 lived in the city of Moline. Um, and so there would be a direct impact on the city and its citizenry if I had to relocate headquarters because I couldn't retain people as a result of this facility going in.
I'd like to turn to the lease, and Mr. Walsh, this time, I would like to offer a previously submitted exhibits, Group Exhibit 1, Group Exhibit 2, and Group Exhibit 3.
So admitted.
And I think everybody has copies, so please have copies. Mr. Katek, if you could take a look at our Group Exhibit 1. Can you describe that document?
So this is a lease that was signed in 1997 between the Quad City Industrial Park Airport Authority and Grupo.
And is this lease still currently in effect?
Yes, it is.
If you would turn to page 8 of the lease. You look at letter G, we read letter G on permitted uses.
Permitted uses, leasing covenants and agrees that in no event will enter into any commercial activity on the air park other than those specified in the restrictions and covenants for industrial zones as set forth in Exhibit C.
So this lease references Exhibit C. If you would turn to Exhibit C of the lease. Page 2 of that lease. Does page 2 of that lease indicate that all of the lots within the municipal air park are subject to the restrictions and covenants contained within these conditions?
Yes, it does.
And then in Article 1 on property, there's a fairly long legal definition of the property that's contained within the air park plat. I'm going to refer you to Exhibit B of the lease. Is this a Exhibit B? Yes, of the lease. Is this a copy of the Quad City Industrial Air Park plat that is referenced in the legal definition of the restrictive covenants in Exhibit C?
Yes.
And do these restrictive covenants in Exhibit C also reference that all of these covenants and restrictions, this is again on page 2. All of the conditions, restrictions, and covenants set forth are for the benefit of each tenant and their respective successors and assigns. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
So these covenants are with the land.
Yes.
So I'd like you to turn to page 7 of the lease, or the Exhibit C, Article 5 on the performance standards. And these performance standards restrict the use of the lots within the air park subdivision.
They do.
And are liquid, solid refuse and wastes and uses such as noise, vibration, or shock, smoke, dust, odor, and other forms of pollution prohibited on lots within the air park.
Yes.
Where are you referencing, council?
This is page 7, Article 4. And then if you turn to page 10 of the covenants, this is again on Exhibit C. letter I.
Yes,
Could you read letter I and that restrictive covenant?
refuse and trash. No refuse or trash shall be kept, stored, or otherwise allowed to accumulate on any parcel.
And that would be applicable to your parcel and any other parcel within the Air Park subdivision. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
Your knowledge and belief is the proposed transfer site located within the Air Park subdivision?
Yes, it is.
You refer to Grupo Exhibit 3. This is if you turn to the second page of that exhibit, there's the legal description there reference lot 21 and all of lot 22 in Quad City Industrial Air Park.
Yes, it does.
And again, those lots would be subject to the restrictive covenants contained in the lease.
Yes, they would.
And to the best of your knowledge, are those restrictive covenants still in force in effect?
Yes, they are.
Have they been amended?
No, they have not.
I don't have any questions.
Mr. Kotecki, you've been with Grupo for 18 months, correct?
That's correct. I also was on the board of directors for approximately 10 years.
And you're not an attorney, are you?
No, sir.
You're not qualified to give legal interpretations of leases or covenants, are you?
I'm qualified to read from a lease and understand it.
Okay, but you're not qualified to give legal interpretations. And of your, I think it's exhibit C to the lease.
Mhm.
No refuse or trash shall be kept, stored, or allowed to accumulate on any parcel. Correct?
That's what it says.
Yeah. Now, you're aware that the operations at this transfer station will be enclosed,
I have been told it will be closed.
and you're aware that the transfer station floor is cleaned every evening?
I listened exactly to what Mr. Moose said. Very clear presentation.
Okay, so you're aware that it's gonna be cleaned every night.
That's what he said.
So we're not storing any refuse on the property, are we?
During the day, there's refuse on the properties. According to the presentation, there's not going to be in the evenings.
And but the refuse is in a building, it's not on the property itself.
That is what Mr. Moose described.
Okay, can you define legally the term parcel? Or are you not qualified to do so?
I do not have a legal definition.
Okay, so you don't know whether the term parcel includes the interior of a building.
No, I do not.
Now, you testified that Grupo could lose millions of dollars in property value, right? Did you do an analysis of that?
No, but I have real estate experts that have been advising me through this process.
Do you have any of them that you can call as witness?
They're not here today. No.
So the answer is you're not going to call any of the people that have been advising you.
No.
And Grupo doesn't even own the property, right?
That's correct. We lease it.
How do you lose property value if you don't own the property?
We own all the buildings and the equipment and the operations.
You don't own any of the real estate, do you?
We own the land. We own all the buildings and the equipment in the business.
And those have all already been amortized, haven't they? How much amortization do you have left to do on your buildings?
I'm not at liberty to discuss the private financial statements of Grupo publicly.
You're telling me you're gonna lose millions of dollars on your buildings. Which building are you gonna lose $1 million on?
The two buildings together have value in the tens of millions. If I lose 10 or 15% of value, that equals millions. If I didn't believe this was something that was going to really happen, I wouldn't be here today.
Let's go back to the history of the industrial park. Lease was signed in 97. Right?
Yes.
Group O has been there since then,
Mhm.
right? How many other tenants have come into the industrial park subdivision since then?
I don't know.
0?
Could be.
So Group O's operation apparently has not stimulated development.
I didn't know that was our job.
Well, you said you were hoping that you get more corporate headquarters.
I would thought Moline could attract higher best use corporate headquarters.
How many have they attracted in the last 26 years you signed the lease?
I would say 0, though I have
Okay.
no idea what efforts were put forth to attract headquarters to that area.
And by the way, your estimate as to what you're going to lose in value on your buildings is not based on a study, is it?
It's based on the experience of my expert advisors, just like you base your opinions.
Okay, well, we don't hear the opinions of your expert advisors. Lakeshore put its expert advisors on the witness stand for cross-examination. Are you gonna do that?
No, and the reason why is because if I didn't believe it was true, I would be wasting my time. I wouldn't be here in front of you today if I thought it was going to have no effect on my business or the real estate values.
Okay, we've already determined you don't have any real estate values here. You don't have
Property
any
values,
land.
building values.
You have no land there.
You do not own the land. The airport owns
So
it.
you have personal property values.
We have values in the buildings, the equipment, and the operations and service.
You said you're gonna lose millions in real estate value, right?
Value of the buildings.
Okay, so you're not gonna lose anything in real estate value.
No.
No, I'm not correct.
No, we will not lose anything in real estate values.
You might lose some personal property values,
Yes.
but you can't tell me which personal property is worth or how much of it has been advertised because that is proprietary information.
Right. Though I did just tell you our plant equipment's for tens of millions.
How much of it's been advertised?
I can't say that. It's private information.
So there's no way to judge objectively the accuracy of your statement about losing value, is there?
But amortization of a building has nothing to do with real estate values. My property is worth 50 million today. After this goes in, it's worth 45 in terms of its fair market value. And that's $5 million in loss.
So once again, you use real estate values. You don't have real estate
My
values.
property values.
You don't have real property values.
I have property values in the building, it's the equipment in the business.
You understand the difference between real property and personal property.
Yes.
You have personal property values.
Right.
Can that equipment be moved?
Not very easily.
By the way, how much do you contribute to road maintenance
I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to get it for you.
do you contribute at all to road maintenance? You're looking for answers. Do you know?
I do not know.
Okay. You do know that Lakeshore is committed to contribute their proportionate share of road maintenance on 47.
I heard that.
You think that's a positive thing?
It's great.
Now, you said that Rickham can tap into additional landfill capacity for an additional 85 years.
That's what it said in their memo.
Do you know whether that's even realistic?
No, I'm not an expert on their landfill. I can only go by what they said in the document.
So you don't know how easy or hard it is to tap into 85 years, or whether it's even possible, right?
I just go based on the document that you provided.
Okay. And then you said you're concerned that with regard to need, we didn't really talk about the transfer station need. We talked about need for disposal capacity.
You talked about the need for increasing disposal capacity.
would you agree with me, sir, that if you transfer a significant amount of waste outside of the service area to a remote landfill, you have effectively increased the remaining capacity of the existing landfills?
Only if you assume that can't be transferred there today.
Can you answer the question, sir? Would you agree that if you transfer waste out of the service area to a remote landfill, you will effectively increase the remaining capacity of the existing landfills?
If you pull material you're currently putting into the local landfills and move them to another landfill, you could increase the capacity and extend the life of the existing landfills. That's your question.
You do agree that competition's a good thing?
Competition is always a good thing.
And then you also agree that Moline has the opportunity to make between $500,000 and $700,000 per year
That-
from this project.
That's the estimate based on what I've heard here.
And you think that's also a good thing, right?
It's always a good thing to increase revenues.
So financially, at least, there is an obvious and tangible benefit down the road from this project, right?
If it was me, I'd be putting more weight into the opportunity cost of what I would be losing by putting this facility in, and less on what I'm gaining today by putting it in.
That brings us back to where we were before, the lost opportunity cost. You're indicating other businesses will not want to come here because of the transfer station.
That's correct.
And my question is, how many businesses have come to that industrial park in the last 26 years other than you?
And I said, I don't know.
And the answer is zero, isn't it?
I don't know. You telling me it's zero?
Yeah. So how much lost opportunity has there been over the past 26 years?
I don't know. I mean, there's nothing there. I don't know what efforts were put into build the airport area, what kind of incentives were provided, what kind of marketing was done. I have no idea what effort was put into that. I just know I'd rather have a bunch of corporate headquarters on my property than transfer facilities if I had a choice.
I'm sure if we could put the Taj Mahal there, you'd like that too, wouldn't you?
It'd be great. You arrange it. You put that next to the LRS facility, I think I'll be okay.
All right. So with regard to these covenants, they were written by the airport authority, weren't they?
I believe so.
And it's the airport authority that entered into this lease with Lakeshore.
I believe so.
Doesn't that indicate to you that they've made a determination that Lakeshore's proposed use is consistent with their covenants?
I'm not Jack is speculation. I do not know.
You can answer the question.
Either that or it's an oversight.
One of the activities that can be done on the site is processing and compacting of materials, correct?
Can you show me where you're looking at that in the document?
I think it's in the covenants,
Yes, what page?
Article 3, they're telling me, Section 6,
Yes, processing and compounding of materials.
processing and compounding. Don't you think that what we do to transfer station consistent with processing and compounding?
It's more consistent with refuse and trash. for me.
Cans there?
We do
So there's refuse in those garbage cans, right?
stuff every day now.
Well, but during the day, there's some in there.
Mhm.
We clean up our floor every night.
Mhm.
So we're all the same here. aren't we?
It's not a very good equivalent, but in that regard, I guess so.
Did you said also, I think that, your employees are gonna quit if this transfer station goes in?
I'm not certain they will, but may affect their willingness to stay on as employees.
How many have told you that they're gonna quit?
I haven't discussed it with any of the employees specifically
So the answer is zero, I told you, right?
so far.
Okay. How many employees do you have on the site at Grupo?
Within those two buildings, we probably have about, 350.
If you said you had thousands of employees,
We do have those,
but not on site.
not in those two buildings.
So whether or not other companies will come in to the industrial park. You have no data on that, do you?
No,
Whether or not employees will quit, you have no data on that.
no,
Whether or not you're gonna lose personal property value, you have no data on that, do you?
I have information from my experts.
Which you're not going to share with us.
That's correct.
That's all I have.
All right.
Other questions?
No questions.
Sylvia?
Mr. Kotechi, Grupo has leased the property since 1997. He's used it for corporate headquarters purposes. Is that my understanding?
Yes, corporate headquarters in one building and the other building is light industrial.
So, okay, you've been in the industrial park for 27 years. What the date those property was given a certificate of occupancy. You have testified that you are now having to take a wait and see approach about future investments in that vicinity based on the performance of the LRS property. To verify.
No, I have to take a wait and see approach to determine what the impact on my ability to retain employees is. It's highly unlikely that I'm going to further develop the Moline Business Park if that facility goes in.
But if the facility never went in, Grupo is prepared to make investments in the airport.
We're considering making investments in the airport
Why now and why not within the last 27 years?
because we have business needs we didn't have 27 years ago. We're a growing company.
Okay, but let's hypothetically say, since we're all sitting here and having to speculate a little bit about the performance of the LRS property, though they have testified to its operation and design to ensure that the external negative impacts would be minimized as much as possible. And they have testified to that on the road. Let's say it does operate like they suggest. Can Grupo then go forward confidently and make the investments it's anticipating in the airport?
I think perception is reality. No one wants to locate next to a garbage facility. Bugs, birds, rodents, odors, garbage has a mind of its own and tends to get out when things happen. And I think you're going to be hard pressed to find people that want to invest next to this facility. I can only speak to what I'm going to do. I'm probably not going to invest millions of dollars in a new building next to this facility.
So notwithstanding everything you've heard here since yesterday, you do not believe LRS is products will perform at the level they're suggesting. You think it's not credible witness testimony?
No, I found Mr. Moose's presentation to be very interesting. I hadn't heard it before. And I certainly hope that they move in, it does, but I think perception is still reality in the real estate market. People don't want to be next to a garbage.
Okay, but we have heard testimony that waste transfer facilities like this don't actually serve as barriers to future investment. Did you hear that testimony?
I didn't hear any testimony that made sense with regard to this location. I heard that by the Chicago airport, in the middle of a giant industrial tract, property values over here didn't change when they put a transfer facility in. But I'm not sure how that relates to my corporate headquarters, or my desire to build a new facility in that property.
Well, it does relate because you are speculating that the operation, the development and operation of the LRS facility is going to be a disincentive for future investment, not only by Group O apparently, but by other unknown players.
I think it will be.
Okay, getting back to that point about not serving as a barrier, the question I had asked that witness was, you've done these valuation impact studies for other waste transfer facilities. At least as I understood the testimony that was offered, it wasn't limited to the O'Hare site that you referenced. It was based on other professional engagements that he has had. And based on that professional experience, it did not serve as a barrier to future investment. Did you not hear that?
I heard exactly what he said.
But that doesn't change your opinion here.
No,
So we have a lot of opinions, but no hard facts.
no.
Thank you.
Mr. Marshall.
Yeah, real quick. Mr. Kazaki, Mr. Mueller asked you a lot about whether or not there was an adverse impact on the real estate values as opposed to property. The criteria on number 3 under 39.2 is the facility is located so as to minimize incompatibility with the character of the surrounding area and to minimize the effect on the value of the surrounding property. Does that say real estate?
No.
Property, which could include personal property, your buildings and equipment.
Yes.
Now, if you decided not to renew your lease with the airport authority, would that impact the value of their real estate?
I would guess so.
I would think so. And finally, again, we've talked a lot about the benefits that this is going to bring to the city of Moline in terms of post payments and things like that. Talk a little bit about the benefits that Group O provides to the city of Moline and what they could potentially lose.
Well, Group O is
That's beyond the scope of,
That's the same.
just briefly to follow up on Mr. Silverman and that. I heard you say bugs, birds, rodents, and odors. Is there evidence any of those things are going to result from this enclosed, modern, state-of-the-art transfer station?
Is there evidence that they won't? Is it open? Is it operating? Are you sure that it won't?
Well, you heard the testimony of Mr. Moose, who said it won't happen, didn't you?
Doesn't exist yet. It's all theory on paper.
So your bugs, birds, odors, and rodents speculation.
It's a possibility.
How many other transfer stations have you visited?
I haven't visited any transfer stations.
So you don't know how effective their bugs, birds, odors, and rodents controls might be.
Well, what I can tell you is that when I heard this facility was going in, I took 15 minutes, went to the LRS website, found the locations of all their facilities, went to Google Maps, zeroed in on their facility, like saw garbage laying all over the yards and open trucks with no tarps that were both full of garbage and not full of garbage. Now, this facility may have different design than those facilities. I don't know, but I also don't know what commitments LRS made to those communities about what would happen with those facilities.
And you're aware that some of we saw are old, open facilities.
I just conceded. I don't know what, I don't know what the difference between the objective for those facilities.
Did you hear Mr. Moose's testimony this morning?
I did.
And did you hear him when you said people don't want to be next to a garbage facility? hear Mr. Maruz testify that these kinds of industrial uses, you don't even know what goes on inside a lot of the time?
You don't know what's going on when there's garbage trucks parked there all day. There's 15 garbage trucks parked there overnight. There's 19 wheel garbage haulers coming in and out. No one's gonna know what's going on there.
The 18-wheelers are tarped and covered, right?
You hope they will.
And they are also loaded indoors, right?
That's the plan.
So assuming this facility operates as represented by Lakeshore, you still have a problem with it?
I drive past LRS facility on Route 80 all the time. I actually complimented these guys on what it looked like, but I see garbage all over in that area. And I don't even think it's from LRS. I think it could be from the haulers that come by and the tarps off and the garbage blows everywhere. There's an inherent risk when you have trucks coming in and out of garbage all day, whether LRS is successful at what they say they would like to try to do. They cannot control all of the factors that go into garbage coming in and out of that facility.
And lastly, Mr. Potecki, you keep talking about rethinking whether or not you're going to invest more in this property, right?
Correct.
Are you threatening not to invest further if this project goes in?
Of course not.
Sounded like a threat to me.
Well, it wasn't.
That's all. Oh, by the way, one last thing. Were you here for Carrie Hanson's presentation?
I've been here since the beginning, so
Okay.
yes.
Are you aware that she actually pictured and identified Group O in her presentation?
I saw a lot of other pictures. I didn't see who was specifically discussed in the presentation, but it's possible that I missed it.
That's all.
Just a couple things. So the properties that Group O incorporated Rock Island County.
Right.
And it's true, is it not, that Group O has not spoken to the city of Moline about developing any of the properties in that business park?
Not at this point.
And you also mentioned that the properties that Group O leases are across the street from this facility. Now, the properties Group O leases, they're not located on 47th,
No.
47th Street.
But they're in plain view of the facility that's going in, and there's nothing there with the cornfield right now.
There's intervening lots. Well over, I mean, we can pull up the map, well over 5 acres. So it's true, is it not, that Group O is not leasing properties across the street?
Across the street or 2 blocks away, I don't think it would make much difference in terms of the impact on our company.
Well, your testimony that you're across the street, and that's not true.
But if you pull up the diagram, you can see that we're in plain view of the facility, so.
You're not on 47th Street.
No.
And there's intervening lots.
There is intervening lots.
No further questions.
So,
Yeah, let's talk about what I actually also think is a threat too. Would Group O make a business decision to divest from that property when its lease expires merely based on the fact that there's a waste transfer facility operating in accordance with the testimony that's been offered here today
No,
and yesterday?
it would be based on our ability to recruit and retain employees.
And so it's your opinion that you will have difficulty retaining and recruiting new employees because
I'm very concerned about it. I'll have to wait and see if the facility goes in, what the actual impact is.
so we are back to a wait and see. Because we don't know yet, right?
Don't know yet.
Okay. All right. As a general tenet of capitalism, we agree that competition is, right, in your extensive experience
Yes, sir.
as chief executive officer of many
Mhm.
large corporations. They're looking. Bear with me one second.
No problem.
How important, okay, so you have represented that, Rubo is is at least thinking about making additional investments in the airport, correct?
Yes.
Okay, but what is the necessity of those investments being near the head?
I'm sorry, yeah.
I'm sorry?
Your question.
Oh, yes. What is the necessity of those anticipated future investments? Being in close proximity to your current facilities?
You're asking me if I could place them elsewhere and it
Yeah.
would be just as profitable or efficient or whatever.
Yes.
There's some benefits to being close to headquarters because that's where all the officers of the company are located. And we can be close by to oversee things that happen in the facility, just as we are the one next to us. There's some benefits there for sure. And, I could probably put it somewhere else as well. Is that better?
So it doesn't, okay, so Grupo's potential investments in the city of Moline or in the vicinity of Moline is not necessarily completely foreclosed by virtue of LRS.
No. And we'd like to support the community. We'd like to support Rock Island County. We'd like to support Moline. He does a lot of wonderful things for the city of Moline and its people. And all of the factors equal, we'd love to be there.
I can tell you from speaking with my clients, they would agree with that. But at the same token, wouldn't you agree that a TIF district, an industrial park set up to promote industrial development, warehousing development, this type of investment, never mind what it is, an $18 million investment is a significant investment.
It's a significant investment.
And since we're kind of thinking about things hypothetically, it could be a catalyst.
It's possible. I wouldn't think it would be based on what it is, but it could.
Okay, and that's again, notwithstanding testimony of Mr. Brewers that shows that it's typically not a very.
I can only base it on what I would do as a CEO.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Marshall, go further. Any other witnesses? Any other witnesses of any sort?
No.
Yeah. We have exhibit for the applicant 1 through 6. So any objection to any of those being admitted? So admitted. We have group road exhibits 1 through 4. Any objections to the addition of those?
No objection.
We are at the conclusion of the evidentiary portion of this hearing. We will next take public comments, or we will break for lunch. Mueller, I understand there's someone that needs to testify or provide public comment at 1 or 1:30.
Our 1 o'clock public commenter, who is the executive director of the airport, has asked if he could do it now because they get back to work.
Yes, we should do it now. Then we'll break for lunch for an hour. Can you bring the podium up? Yeah. Give me the list, please, of
This is Ben Lester.
okay, one second. Hold on a second. Can you give me the list of those that registered, please?
Yeah, I will. I'm gonna just slip it out.
Again, for the record, anyone that wants to provide public comment at this hearing, sign is registered today because public comments will be concluded today.
You want to hear it?
Yes.
Who's this person?
Ben Lester.
I'm okay, you sit there. Yeah. That's it.
So my name is Ben Leishner. I'm the Executive Director of the Metropolitan Airport Authority of Long Island County, Illinois. Sorry I couldn't be here earlier, so my time was limited. I'm kind of going back and forth between the airport here. I had a couple minutes to Mr. Koteki's testimony or witness position and their value tenet of the industrial park. It's no secret there hasn't been a lot of activity going on in the industrial park for the last 20+ years. I've been the executive director of the airport for just over 5, and it's been part of the mission to market that space and especially work with the city to partner with the development of that TIP district with the expense of the infrastructure being installed to those facilities. To be honest with you, when Lakeshore first reached out to the airport authority, we were very dismissive. And we have positioned that, sorry, we are not interested in having that type of construction or operation on airport property. For obvious reasons, hazards and risks associated with wildlife and traffic are a big one for airports. But also that's an area where we want to develop and it's kind of the light industrial warehousing headquarters of Group O. It's an area we want to have it be very presentable and be something to be prideful of. However, as we started to engage Lakeshore Recycling, we had a list of issues and all those issues were addressed really quickly. And ultimately what it came to was a facility that I did not expect. I thought we had enough hurdles in place where, yeah, this isn't, transfer station is not something you want at the airport, period. But then what it became was an indoor transfer station, which was something that I was not familiar with and is honestly, I think aligns really well with the development of that space. Well, I see it, I put a lot of deliberation into this. As the director distributed about 2,500 acres, we contribute over right around $700 million of annual economic activity to the Quad Cities region. So we don't take these things lightly. We looked into it very closely. We listened to some experts. Most importantly, I reached out to other locations where Lakeshore has started to go this direction in proximity to airports. People that I trust. I'm used to working with developers, and a lot of developers will tell you what you want to hear. So I trust the data, not conjecture, not opinion. It's how have you performed in the past, and are you capable of meeting the requirements which are set forth in Title 14 of the Code of Federal Regulations for airports, as far as this is what you must do. Process started to move forward, and it became more of an obvious. It made a lot more sense. I reached out to Group O multiple times early on, and kind of, hey, this is what we're looking at doing. I just wanted like to talk to you about that. And then eventually, once it got to where it was imminent on some of this process, hey, we do need to talk about this. Let's talk about this. We're really concerned. And I felt pretty comfortable with the issues that were raised. I was like, yeah, I was exactly where you are. I was there 7 months ago, 8 months ago. I now understand it better. I've done some research. I feel more comfortable with this. And some of my position, I also am very familiar with the property, and even closer to their headquarters is an open solid waste facility for a trailer park. Like if this doesn't bother you or create a detriment, a facility that has got, it's off the road, it's got berms, you're going to see trash trucks coming in and out, but that's something that's been covered as far as waste pickup. If anything blows off, we have personnel 5 days a week that are on the south side of the airport picking up trash, doing grounds maintenance. And so this is something that we can then turn over to Lakeshore to cover an issue that's already there that may get worse, but it will be addressed, and the issue that's there today will be taken care of. So again, we want to promote all development. From the airport's perspective, we do not see this as being any kind of risk or hazard to aviation, which again, that's our primary mission. Yes, we do have an industrial airport, but we want to safety and security are number one. Number two is promoting commerce in the region. And again, I thought we were setting a really high bar of some somewhat unobtainable goals, but then after talking to some experts and looking at what they presented, it aligns really well. I will also happily say this is something that if this does go forward, we will be monitoring it every day. The way it's structured, we will have personnel every several hours going by with public safety or maintenance. So we'll be monitoring it. If there are issues where it's non-compliance specifically, then it won't be a indoor transportation for long, because we'll have those encumbrances in place where they meet the requirements regardless of who owns the facility or who operates the facility. It has to meet those federal requirements that are encumbered on the property of the lease. So I just wanted to share that. I will also say that, again, I've done a lot of research talking to other organizations that have done work with Lakeshore. And some of my early feelings and sentiments were validated through those discussions. I know it is something where it's, yes, deemed controversial. A lot of perspective is it's something really well known in the airports industry, which is NIMBY, not in my backyard. You can see the greater Group O's position on what the possible impacts could be to their operation and facility. It's one where as the lessor, we're completely willing and prepared to stand behind those encumbrances and make sure that the facility becomes what it is said to become, or it will not exist for long. And so thank you. That's all I just want to share.
Thank you, Mr. Flesh. We'll reconvene at 1:30 to continue public comment.
I don't think. Yeah, well, this is back.